diagnosed with osteoporosis.
Okay. Tell me again. Your story
Okay.
started.
So,
Mhm.
hi again.
Hi.
Good to be here. I'm like I said, I'm specializing in nutrigenomics, so it's using DNA analysis for health. And uh, a big part of what I do is bone health,
Right.
and this is really inspired by my own story, because I was diagnosed with osteoporosis in my 30s.
Mhm.
It was a combination of different things, genetics, the fact that I was struggling with my body image. I had disordered eating patterns in my life without being diagnosed ever with a an eating disorder. I still had issues around how to eat and how much I was eating and what I was eating, so I was missing nutrients. So I ended up with osteoporosis. It was very scary for me. So that's how my personal journey in health and wellness started. That was 20 years ago almost. And that's why I say, well, I specialize in bone health because this is very big part of my story. And I kind of like developed the expertise through my own experience. But the truth is that I have a much bigger vision for women over 35, over 40, and everything that we go through, the hormone fluctuations, mental health issues, struggles with, how we look, what other people think about us, how we've been conditioned about, what people are expecting, expectations to have family or not to have family, to have children or not to have children. I mean, we don't win. Whatever we do, we don't win. If you do have a career, then people will say, oh, why you had a career, you didn't have a family. If you try to juggle both, people go like, oh, why you concentrate on one of the things, you can't do both, and that's why you are exhausted. So
It's
I
so
mean, it
true.
seems like, yeah, I mean, it seems like women, we can't win, and this is actually one of the main reasons why women struggle with so many health issues. I mean, it's not really random, the fact that the majority of autoimmunity cases happen in women. So you have a lot of autoimmune conditions that are happening in women over 35 and 40. And then when entering menopause, again, is another trigger for, these things to happen. So chronic fatigue, autoimmune conditions, mental health issues, ADHD, which, can be triggered and become even worse. It happens mostly in women, and that's because of all these things that are happening. So my vision for women and wellness is much bigger, I'd say, beyond bone health and menopause. And I'm hoping I can build something on that. But yeah, that's what I do.
Okay. Okay. I do like the holistic, I guess, look at things, which is something that has been coming up pretty often, in the interviews that I've been doing because we just kind of multifaceted beings. Like there's no one way to look at certain things. Like somebody was telling me that they were stressed out, and stress, would affect all kinds of things. So it's good
True.
to look at everything, even what you're going through at this point in time, that kind of thing. And like you said, the body changes and then like things happen. So it's like things that are unavoidable, right? So they can happen. But a main thing is to recognize what's happening, really. That's one of the things. You have to
Yeah.
recognize what's happening.
Yeah, you have to recognize what's happening. And I speak to many women around my age or a little bit younger. And what happens, for example, with perimenopause and menopause, women don't really understand what happens in the bodies. And especially, younger women. I mean, perimenopause can start earlier. And one of the triggers is, like you mentioned, stress. If you are
Right.
stressed, then you will, your hormones will be fluctuating. So the moment you hit 35, 36, 37, 38, you'll start having perimenopausal symptoms that are not so typical, but are actually a result of all these things that are happening in your mind and in your body. And you get scared, you can get palpitations, weird like symptoms, like for example, it's ears. I think you mentioned that, in the post,
Yeah.
a few
It's
days ago.
random
But
too,
actually,
right?
I know, and people get scared and they go, I mean, they go for palpitations, like, oh, some problem with my heart. Then they had tinnitus or dizziness or problem with ears and itchy ears, and they're not sure what is happening. They go like, oh yeah, I could have an infection or something. But actually it's all about, hormone fluctuation, how stress is contributing to that, and also nutrition, because a lot of women, well, not only women, also men, but I think women maybe a little bit more sensitive or vulnerable to it because, you know, everything that Instagram, everything that we see around us, women looking like really thin and skinny and beautiful. We get trapped into these kind of images, and then you know, trend diets like the keto diet and I don't know, the intermittent
Yeah, the
fasting
intermittent fasting.
and
That's a big one.
I mean, they're all great, and
Right.
from time to time you can use them, but long term, and especially if you don't do them right, is can actually do more harm. Especially women of reproductive age can be very harmful because they can end up not getting enough nutrients and not getting enough calories for their body composition to be healthy enough so they have the right, hormonal balance. And
Right.
this can lead to a lot of issues and trigger perimenopausal symptoms much, much earlier than, you know, 45 or 50, when really, menopause should start. So these are, I have women, like you said, late 30s and early 40s, that they contact me with these sort of symptoms and they feel lost. They don't know what happened in their bodies. And
Hmm.
also they're very, how can I say, they feel drained, they feel old, which I think,
Hmm.
they're like pains and aches all over
Oh,
their
yeah.
body,
Yeah.
no motivation to do anything,
Yes.
um, but migraines, uh, and it's really a pity to me to see, younger women than me, to especially younger women than me, to be in that sort of state. I mean, state of mind, but also, state of health overall. So I try to work with women with nutrition and everything else, and also coaching them to get get back to how they used to be, or feel better, and well, first of all, like you said, understand, realize what is happening in their bodies and their minds as well.
So would you say that it's happening to younger women now?
It's happening to younger women, yeah, because of everything that I just mentioned.
Hmm.
Even early menopause or early perimenopause, or I think ovarian failure, which are very, very similar, and the symptoms are pretty much the same, is happening much earlier in life to more and more women. It's not as rare as it used to be. And of course, if you do have, if you end up with early menopause, then of course you will still, the problems will be bad. It will be even worse. You have problems with your bones, getting
Right.
osteoporosis and everything. So you will actually start having the body of an older person, which, is, while it shouldn't be the case. So it's something that has happened more and more and more and more and more often now. And it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
Right. Right. And I guess maybe it just boils down to diet then, because why is it happening to
Well,
more
it's
young?
diet and stress. It's diet and stress. Like I said, all
So
these,
the younger people just getting stressed out younger. That is
yeah,
sad.
yeah, it
That is
is.
sad.
But it's true. It's true. It's true. And I think, like
Mm,
you said, younger people are much more exposed to stress. They don't have any, contact with nature. They spend a lot of time on, social
True,
media,
true,
computer,
true.
everything. They don't have the sort of, one-to-one interactive communications that we used to have in the past.
That's
And
true.
I mean, you know what? I'm not against anything of that. It's just that I think that balance and control is lost. That's
Right.
what the problem is. Because, social media is great and, internet is great and all these things is great. And the fact that, I'm here with you, we met on social media, so it connects people,
True.
but it needs to be a certain balance.
Hmm.
And that balance is lost. Um,
It definitely,
younger
especially
children,
since COVID, I think that
yeah, oh my
it's
God,
it's out
yeah.
it's out the door now. Because well, we were forced to kind of stay indoors, so we started to seek that social interaction in other ways, right? And then so then the online and internet kind of fed into a bunch of different things, right? And it's also kind of addictive because there's so much content
It is
out there.
addictive.
So if
It
you
is
find like a
addictive.
particular thing that you like, the
It is
algorithm
addictive.
is gonna be like,
Yeah.
oh, she likes to watch this kind of stuff. And then there's just gonna like,
I know.
here, all the creators that create all of the
Yeah.
funny stuff because I like to watch like funny stuff.
Yeah, and the all the things that go viral.
Yes.
And of course, that also depends on the personality. Some people, can be more addicted to videos, some other people can be more addicted to podcasts and listening. That's, a matter of preference. But the
Yeah.
truth is that that's the algorithms, that's what they do. They especially screen time, when we spend a lot of time in front of the screens, our dopamine receptors are really activated. And dopamine is what makes us really excited, but at the same time, it's what makes you have an addictive behavior.
Right.
So, it's very easy for someone to get hooked and get out of control, because after a little while, it's the biochemistry of your body that takes over. Is your dopamine receptors really, being fired up and taking over? So you
That's
don't really
interesting.
think about it or process it. It's just
Mhm.
like really biochemistry. And that's why these algorithms work so well, because um, it's just out of control. It's like we're going on some form of autopilot, and then, our biochemistry takes over.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah. And I've seen a couple of, I don't know if it's ads, but a few things online where well the content really is talking about just scrolling through, and people are actually saying, hey, you stop, put down the phone, go to bed. Like I don't know if you've seen any of those.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
know, I know, I know. But it is what it is. I think a sense of balance is missing there.
yeah.
And especially for younger people, it's harder because they didn't actually experience any form of balance. They're
Right.
exposed to this thing first thing. So they don't have a reference, to actually say, oh, okay, this is it and it's okay, but also I have something else to compare. So this is what they know. And unfortunately, that's not particularly helpful. So
Yeah.
if there are a lot of benefits with social media and internet and everything, but as long as there is some balance. I think this balance
I
unfortunately
think,
is low.
yeah. And I think, I
Mm.
don't know if it's hard to do the balance or if it's just, yeah, I think it might be. I think it might be hard to do the balance because for me, if I put on my phone and I'm doing something else and there's a low, I was like, okay, let me grab it, see, did I get any messages? And like if there's like you said, autopilot kind
It
of
is an
thing,
autopilot.
that kind of happens where, yeah, I just like grab it, check it.
Yeah, it is addictive.
And
I
what's
mean, it is
worse
addictive.
is that I will pick up my phone and do something else.
Yeah,
And I'm like, wait,
yeah, I know.
why did I pick up my phone again? It wasn't to check Instagram.
I know, I know.
Uh,
And it happens to everyone. I mean, it's similar to what happens with nicotine and, smoking, or, what happens with caffeine or any other form of addiction.
right,
Sometimes you do it without really understanding why you do it.
right,
It
right.
becomes a habit that it's like really, engraved in your, I don't know, body metabolism and your mind. And it's just, it just becomes part of you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, we're all guilty of that. I'm definitely not doing so great. The only thing that I managed to do is I keep my phone in silent.
right,
So that I have like complete silent, that, so there's no notifications, hearing no notifications, no any buzzing, nothing. And that, is a little bit better, because yes, I'll probably pick it up much more often than what I ideally would like to,
right.
but there's not this distraction.
Yes,
So for example, when I do something else, it's not like, beep, beep in the background. So, I need to check. So it's there, and
yeah.
that helps. So that's one of the things that I say to people, that, unless it's absolutely necessary, keep your phones in silent,
Hmm.
like complete silence, and you will still check, you're not going to
For
miss
sure.
anything, I guarantee for
Because
sure.
mine is on
But
silent right now.
exactly, but it will take you a little bit out of, that very super active
Yes,
mind,
yes.
that you're actually, you're all the time like, who is that? So you don't
Yeah.
have to check like every like single second,
Well,
because
maybe
you hear a big noise.
maybe it's me just getting older, but I find the noise, the little alerts, so annoying. I don't even like to hear it vibrate. It's just like
Oh my God. Yeah. I know. I know.
So
I know.
it's constantly on silent, which isn't really good because of course I would miss important calls if that happens. But yeah, I can't with the constant notifications, or it's like, hey, me, hey, don't forget me, look at me. So yeah, there definitely needs to be some sort of balance. But I think if you get really busy, and for me that is how it is. Like if you get really busy, then you don't have time to look at your phone, unless of course it's what you do in your job. So, it's what I do. So therefore, I have to check ever so often. Um, and I'm trying to like push the podcast and trying to push out my agency. So I want to engage with people when they message, that kind of thing. So like I kind of have to, but then like you said, I also need to find that balance, kind of disconnect. But then I also find like pleasure in like mini games on my phone. Like I love casual games. The ones where you match things,
And
and
I know.
I love
You know what?
those.
This is not so bad for your brain. It's actually, training your brain. And I think there is research about it saying that, quite valid research, that doing things like that actually helps you avoid, dementia and Alzheimer's when you
Okay.
get older.
Okay.
So, it's like I said, there's no black and white.
Right.
And definitely, I like to see the good in everything as
Yeah.
much as possible. So for me, for example, my business, everything that I do has been online before COVID. So, I pretty much rely on that. Um, it's connecting with people that live far away. I lived abroad for 20 plus years. Then I moved to another country. I have so many other connections in so many other different places. It would be impossible to keep that connections live if there wasn't the social media and internet and WhatsApp and everything else. So I'm really, really grateful for all that. But at the same time, it can be a stress trigger, and you just need to step back a little bit and recognize, and when it starts becoming not fun, then the alarm bells should start ringing, that because I love my job and I love pretty much everything online, but when it starts stressing me and I feel the stress and the pressure, then I feel that I need to step back a little bit and just take maybe some time off, take like a day off, a half day off, do some yoga, go, for some walk in nature if I can, just to completely disconnect from everything. But most of the times, like you said, I do enjoy it. There's a lot of pleasure in that, connecting with people, trying to communicate with them, engage with them, sharing things that that are helpful. This is really, food for your soul. It's fun. So as long as you feel like this, then fine. But when it starts getting a bit like, like a burden, like an extra thing that you need to do and not something that you love to do, then you need to take a break.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do. Um, well, I wanted to go back to what you said about the connection on social media. And I want to say something controversial. I almost think that that is a trick because we connect, we add people that through life, that we met through life. But do we even talk to them? There's so many people who are having connections from like school and university and places that I live in. Ever so often, I probably might get a happy birthday, and then I might also tell them happy birthday. But then there's nothing for like the whole year. And yes, we kind of keep track of their lives, well, whatever they post on social media. But then that's it. We can't actually say for me, let me just say for me, that we still have like that strong connection. It's just like, hey, look, if for whatever reason, and sometimes it wouldn't align, I would connect with you again. And then, hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm good. How you going? Yeah, I'm good. Okay, cool. Next 10 years go by kind of thing. I
I
almost
know what you
feel,
mean.
yeah, I almost feel like it's just a trick to make it seem like you still connected, you still in communication with these people when, their lives are going on, your lives are going on, your life is going on, and we don't communicate, right? And before social media, well, before like Instagram and Facebook and all this kind of thing, I used to Skype my friends, and I felt like I spoke to them more often that way than no having them on social media.
I know what you mean because Skype was like, call them, I guess, in a
Yes.
way. It was the
Yeah.
same thing. It was over internet. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I do remember Skype, and I used to use Skype for, online consultations in the beginning when I started. Yeah, I think it's different. It's different than social media for
Yeah.
sure. Um, I mean, when I refer to, keeping connections from the past, of course, the wider connections, like you said, people that you just kind of like have an idea what's happening in their lives because you follow each other on social media but you don't really communicate. But then there is a
Yeah.
group of people that for me the only way to keep in touch, we keep in touch much more often. It was like somehow social media or internet or WhatsApp again is probably a little bit different. It's like Skype, I guess. And that wouldn't be so easy if this didn't exist. But I agree, the majority of the people that you are connected on social media, it's a trick, it's not real connection. There should be like a small group though from them that you kind of feel closer. Oh no, I mean for me it's something that it's true anyway. But maybe that's because I have like a different experience and I used to live somewhere else and then I was traveling a lot and then now I moved to another country. So I actually, well, from Facebook at least, I know personally a lot of my followers there because I actually met them. And we still keep in touch, which is a little bit more than having just like the trick connection. But I agree. And definitely when you have, I don't know, 100,000 or million followers or whatever, yeah, you are connected with them, but not really.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it kind of creates this false sense of community, doesn't it? It really
Yeah,
does.
and we all crave that. We all crave community. And like you mentioned, what happened with COVID, I don't know how you experienced it, but for me, was a really dark period of my life. It really affected me mentally a lot. I couldn't work through, through the whole of it. It was impossible for me. I didn't have
Really.
that clear, yeah, I didn't have the
Wow.
clear, mental state to actually work and be helping others because I needed help myself. It really, really made me feel horrible. I was almost depressed. Yeah, I mean, social media then was an escape. And then maybe after that, it completely went, out of control. It really, magnified in proportions in a way that is not so helpful. But I
Yeah.
can see why it happened.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was a tough time. The way that I experienced it, especially in Greece, was with my mom and my sisters, and the restrictions in Greece were really tough. About going out and meeting people and doing the tests or doing the vaccines, and it was really, 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 really tough. So we couldn't really go absolutely anywhere for months. Um, so that was really, 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 really hard.
If you are accustomed, I guess, going out and being out, it was difficult for um people for sure. For me, it wasn't not so much because I guess I'm a homebody, so
Oh yeah. Oh,
so it was okay. Once we had food and internet, I think we were okay, to just like watch TV and that kind of thing. And I actually found it enlightening in a way because that's how I kind of realized that the life that I was currently living wasn't what I wanted. Like I didn't want to spend my whole life at work in an office by a desk. Um, I wanted to just be able to have enjoyment more leisure time. Because when we were working from home, um, during COVID, right? Like it was, I loved it. Like I didn't have to get up early, you know, the kitchen's right there, the bathroom is right there. And then at 5 o'clock, yeah, on the dot. I'm moved from table to the couch. Hey, what we watching tonight? Popcorn, hot dogs. It was great. It was great.
I think I think that was probably you know uh, because of the fact that you were working in an office before. So I do understand that because I absolutely hated working in an office. I mean,
Right.
I started, I mean, my first, career or job or whatever was in telecommunications. So I used
Okay.
to be an electronic engineer for many years before I moved on to nutrition and wellness. And working in an office, for a big corporate company, which was, what I was doing most of the time that I was in that sector was not something that I liked.
Right.
Waking up in the morning, commuting to the office, then, all the policies and stuff that happen in this sort of environment. It was very, I felt like I wasn't my real self. And I really didn't like it. So when
Yeah.
I decided to move on and do something completely different, it was like, it was life-saving for me.
Right.
And
Right.
up to that point, actually, that was when I was diagnosed with osteoporosis because it was
Oh.
really this sort of life and work really didn't suit me at all. And it actually made me really, really ill. I wasn't happy. So from
Mm.
the moment I quit and I decided this is not for me, then, my health and everything that started improving. And of course, I got into nutrition, went back to studying and everything. So it totally changed my life. But I understand, yeah, if I was still working in an office and then, I was getting a break with COVID, I
Oh
would
man,
feel
it
the
was
same.
so good.
I would feel the same. I
It
would
was
feel the
so good.
same.
I did not want to go back out to the office. I did not. I was like, but I'm working from home. I'm coping very well. Like it And then as soon as like COVID or the lockdown was lifted and then businesses started to reopen, like it was almost like the businesses, not almost, they didn't care. They just wanted to get back out to work, right? There wasn't any consideration for maybe like a hybrid, like a phased approach because okay, some people didn't like it, of course, some people prefer to be in office. And then there were other employees who did like it. So like management didn't even kind of consider it. It just was like, all right, well, everybody got to come back out to the office. And I think yeah, just having that kind of harsh kind of
Approach,
switch
yeah.
switch, yeah, it didn't sit well with me. So, and it just kind of was like, no, this is not what I want. Like now that I had a chance to work from home, or even remotely, because I mean like people say from home and maybe that's a negative how they see it, that's what make it negative, but working remotely, um, and being able to work, like the thought of that just was like, ooh, well, I probably wouldn't work if I go to the beach, but like, like a cafe or, someplace outdoors or something.
Mm.
And I think that they really dropped the ball. Some companies really dropped the ball there. I think there was another company um who did the hybrid approach, and I think they gave the employees eventually like a day a week, um during the week that they could, work from home. And they really, really, really appreciate that. And they look forward to it. So like I think that maybe there just needed to be like a shift a little bit. Like just don't go back. You know what I mean? I think that there needs to be like a shift to think about the employees' kind of mental well-being a little bit. And,
Exactly. So
and
you mentioned that hybrid approach, and in UK, a lot of companies did that. From what I know, I mean, I have a lot of friends that, after COVID, they were given the option to, spend some times in the office and sometimes, at home. And that was, of course, something that was fully appreciated. And like you said, a lot of people actually, if, they didn't have this option and they were like this, like harsh decision, you have to go back to the office, they just decided to leave. I don't blame them. I would probably be one of these guys. I left months before COVID anyway.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I do understand that. And what happens, in these sort of environments, in office environments, I think in general is very unhealthy, and it
mm,
doesn't take into consideration any of, personal preferences, personalities. It's not everyone is the same, and different people can be productive with completely different you doing different things. Some people are more productive working from home, some people can be more productive, being in the office. Some people are better communicators, some people are not so great communicators, but
exactly.
projects. And I know that there are big HR departments that are supposed to be looking after all these things, but
Mhm.
seriously, I don't think I've never seen that in any big company. And I think the bigger the company, the worse it is. And
Mm.
in my opinion, the bigger the company, the worse it is.
I think some employers, especially, all right, when you have like a massive, what's called like exodus, right? I think some of those companies got the point. So when I see, especially in the UK, when I see job ads and vacancies, you would see like, oh, it's a hybrid kind of setup, and you
Yeah,
can come into the office like once a week,
yeah,
or you know,
yeah.
you know what I
UK,
mean? Like they
a
they say
lot
that
of
up
companies
front.
they do this approach.
They say
Yeah, they
that up
do that.
front,
They do that.
which which I was like, okay, so now you know. Now you know. Because some people, and I commend people for doing that. I quit my job as well, by the way, afterwards, because I just it was not what I wanted. And COVID kind of opened my eyes to that, or the experience from COVID kind of opened my eyes to that.
It
So
was a wake up
yeah, kudos to people who
call.
who took that. I mean, it was a scary kind of decision because, it's your bread and butter, right? So of course, a lot of people might not be in a position to leave their job and do something else. But for the people who were in a position to do so and did so, and then even the ones who weren't, but then are like, nah, I need something better for myself. Kudos to those people as well. And hopefully we all find something that works for us, our passion and what drives us and motivates us because
Exactly, because that, and we're going back to the start of the discussion, because
yeah.
this is exactly what is going to feel more fun and motivate you more, and you won't, you will end up
Yeah.
not being so stressed and not being so pressurized. So your body
Yes.
also be healthier if you feel better with yourself, who you are, with your choices, then your body will respond to that and you will feel better. And I'm so glad that you also mentioned your own story, because it's important for all people to do that. And especially I think as women, it's important sometimes to just forget about all the conditioning and just
Hmm.
go with what we really feel it's our true selves, and just do that, whatever the risk or what people are saying. Because I mean, when I quit my job, people were like, oh no, I mean, you
Oh
have
my
invested
gosh. Yeah,
so many years, so much,
you're
and
so
this was
right.
a really good job, and
That's a
and
big
you know
thing.
had so good money. What are you going to do there? You don't have any clue what you're going to do. Are you going back to studying something new? Are you crazy? And so sometimes it's just go with your heart, and really, really, really believe in yourself, and
Yes.
you can't go wrong. I mean, you
Can't
can't
listen
go
to
wrong.
it.
I'm not
Can't
saying,
listen to people too, like you said, right? You can't
yeah,
listen
I'm
to
not saying it's
them.
going to be, but it's different, because
Yeah.
it feels, it's your purpose, it's what makes you happy, what makes you shine, what
Yeah.
makes you glow, what makes you get up in the morning. So it's not easy, but it doesn't feel like it drains you.
Yeah.
So it's
Exactly.
energizing.
Exactly.
It's energizing. It's not
Exactly.
easy,
And
but it's
up and down. It's an up and down roller coaster for sure,
exactly, yeah. But it gives you, it's energizing. It gives you life, like you said, roller coaster.
Yeah.
But you're part of that and you enjoy it. It can be scary sometimes, but it's actually a lot of fun. And it's what keeps you alive, what keeps you motivated, what keeps
Yeah.
you, you know, talking about women. That is the kind of vision that I have with women. And most of women that come to me for help, either it's for bone health, menopause, autoimmunity, or whatever, that's the kind of feeling that I'm trying to, pass to them,
Hmm.
because
I like
it
that.
all starts from that.
Yeah.
Yes, and supplements and the nutrition and the genetics and everything else. Yes, it's part of that, but it's the bigger picture. And one thing helps the other. Of course, nutrition is very much underestimated in mental health. I mean, come on, if your diet is not, it's very poor, and you eat a lot of, I don't know, junk or whatever else, then of course your mental health will suffer, because you're not going to produce enough neurotransmitters, which are important for your nervous system. You're
Right.
not going to get enough nutrients, all these processes to run correctly. So yes, of course, but at the same time, your mental health will also have an impact on your physical health. So there are two parts of, two different sides of the same coin. Let's say, it's two different parts that are very, very much connected, and you can't say, okay, now I'll take care of my body, good diet, I'll do my tests, I'll take my supplements, blah blah blah, and I forget about my mental health, and I forget about my own
Exactly.
happiness, and I forget about my,
But I mean,
it
that,
has to be a
yes. I think that's definitely like something that I don't want, I guess maybe it's we are taught to think like that. Like once you exercise and eat a certain way, then you're good. You know what I mean? Like say, oh, you got sleep, get good sleep, exercise, eat properly. Like that's it to happiness. That's the key. You know, we're kind of taught that that's the way to happiness. Like that's what makes you happy, right? No one has ever spoken really about the mental health side of things at
No, no,
all.
you're right. And
No one's ever really spoken about it. It's only now, really,
the
that I
body is the
feel,
container, the body is the container for everything else.
yeah,
So health, well, spiritual, the fact that we are spiritual beings, either we like it or not.
yeah,
So the body is just the container. Yes, it needs to be healthy. Yes, it needs to be strong. Yes, if it's healthy and if it's strong, it will contribute also to your mental health and
right,
everything.
right,
But it's only, a part of the whole picture. We need to we need to have this, conversation with people. We need to open up. We need to deal with trauma. We need to be able to and open to talk about the things that are trouble us, the things that are hurting us. And when this happens, and when the mental state, the spiritual, the emotional state is also, you know, good, and your body, the container, the physical container is also in a good state,
hmm
then you talk about true wellness and health. There's
right,
no having, I don't know, the perfect diet, the perfect exercise, do all the biohacking, stuff that, if you're struggling internally and you're not
hmm
happy with who you are, you do a job that, it doesn't serve you, you are having a life sharing it with toxic people that you tolerate. A lot of the things, I mean, you can't. And if someone asks you, how do you feel? And you say, I'm good, I'm well. Are you truly well? No, probably not. And you know what? The body will catch up to that. Even if your diet is perfect, even if your exercise regimen is perfect, if internally you're not well, eventually it will also affect your body. And that's what happens to a lot of us, especially women, because we're under a lot more pressure than men still.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I and it's a lot, and that's another reason why I started this podcast because you kind of go along, especially when you're younger, you just kind of go along with whatever.
Sure.
It's only until I guess something serious comes up, or if that you kind of like, wait, what? When does this happen? Like when, you start talking to other women, especially as you get older, and it's like, oh wait, that happens to you as well, you know? So then it starts to highlight all these different issues as we kind of traverse life. And some things people talk about, like I've been discovering that things like menopause is hardly spoken about, and there's only now kind of coming to the forefront. And I guess it's because the algorithms now see that I search for this kind of stuff, so they're sharing the women and so on in this space with me, and PCOS and that kind of thing. There's so many things I found out that happened. I'll say PCOS, and this could like stop me from having kids, and like, oh my gosh, we gotta deal with all of this. It's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a
It
lot. And
it's
I
a
mean,
lot.
we are lucky and unlucky, but lucky, I think, because we are more exposed to hormonal fluctuations throughout our whole life.
Yeah.
Because you talk a lot about menopause and perimenopause, because this is theoretically when a huge shift in hormones happens. But actually, if you think about it, throughout all our lives, from childhood, and then moving teenager, then an older woman in reproductive age, our hormones fluctuating every month.
Yeah.
Every,
Yeah.
I mean, going up and down, and for some women more than others, and there's a lot of reasons for genetics play a role, nutrition plays a role, mental health, like we said, play a role. But we're going through these fluctuations pretty much throughout all our lives.
Yeah.
It's not the same with men. This affects
No.
us. This affects our emotions. This affects our nervous system. This affects, of course, our bodies. You mentioned PCOS. That is actually a condition that is another condition that is so common for women in reproductive age. I was diagnosed
Mm.
with PCOS. Well, guess what? I just had to spend like a year or so of actually eating better, taking care of my body and
And
mind,
then you were
and
good?
then PCOS disappeared. PCOS
Wow.
disappeared, and I was taking like medication. I was put on the pill because supposedly this would help, but actually
It did not.
didn't. And other things like it did not. Yeah, another like hormonal, say, drugs, medications that didn't really help. And then I decided, because I wasn't feeling well, I decided I'm just going to stop all these, just concentrate on feeling better. Relaxation. Started doing things like yoga.
Mm.
Um, yeah, looking after my nutrition, looking after myself in general. Um, Breaking up with a from a very toxic boyfriend, and then here you go, after a year or so everything was disappeared and my periods were back to normal,
Right.
and it was fine. And then I went to the doctor and said, no signs of PCOS.
Nice.
Yeah, but and I'm not saying that it would be so easy for all women, because everyone is different, but
Yeah.
there's so many things that we need to go throughout there, and so many so-called conditions or situations that we're dealing with. And yeah, like you said, until recently, there was not much talk about it, and
Yeah.
maybe some stigma about certain things. For example, PCOS, endometriosis, because they also affect fertility, and because women,
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I mean, they need to be fertile because that's their only purpose in life. Which I've got nothing
Yes.
against
Nothing
women.
wrong. Nothing's not wrong with that.
No, no, nothing wrong, but
Yeah.
it's not only about that. And so there was stigma with, conditions like that, because if you have endometriosis, if you have PCOS, then fertility will be difficult. And there was stigma. People were not talking about that.
Yes.
So a lot of blame, there was a lot of confusion. And still, I mean, I speak to women with such issues, especially endometriosis, which is a very painful condition. And it's quite difficult to deal with. Sometimes you might need to do surgery and things like that. So it's tough. And they still feel almost ashamed, like it's their
Mhm.
fault. And
Yeah.
and
Yes.
you know, when I and
Yes.
still, trust me, still, even though now we talk a little bit more about these things, there's still young women that have these issues, and I speak to them and I feel like they're ashamed, like
Mm.
it's something that they did wrong and it's their fault because they have this thing, and
Yeah.
this is wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. It's really because, well, yeah, that's how we're made, right? And whether it's society or something innate or just how we came up, most women I know, want to experience motherhood and having kids. So when and even and I guess maybe for some of them who didn't, even to know that you can't, or it's major difficulty, I think um, that really does bring down your morals, not your morals, but it brings
Feel
down
like
how
a
you
failure.
feel about your
Yeah, you feel like a
yourself.
failure, like
Yeah,
you
your body
you're
let you
nothing.
down.
Yeah, exactly. Your body let you down, that maybe you let down, I don't know, other people, your family, your husband, your partner. So it's a tough situation. I really like the fact that, what you said, that how you grew up, and you had like certain perceptions of things, and some things were happening to you, but you had the impression that it was only you, and these things were not happening to anyone else. That was exactly my experience. And I wasn't talking about what was happening in my life and how, my mental health, my stresses, my health problems, because I thought it was only me and everybody else was perfect, and nothing like that was happening to anybody else.
Yeah,
And then
because nobody wasn't talking about it.
yeah, because
No,
nobody was talking about it.
yeah,
And
nobody not sharing.
I mean, I grew up in a small town in somewhere in Greece. I was there until I was 18 years old. So there it was even worse. People were not talking about these things. We didn't even know what they are. And if these things were happening to us, um, it was it was a hidden secret. We didn't talk about it. We didn't even mention it to ourselves. And we didn't think that these things are happening to others. We thought that it was only me. I have all of these issues, my stress, my hormonal problems or whatever, but it's only me. It's only me. It doesn't happen to anybody else. And then you start meeting people and travel and talking to others and listen to podcasts now.
Yeah, yeah. Even like
And
Facebook
you go like,
groups.
oh, Facebook groups or on the internet, and you go, oh shit, I mean, this actually happens to other people. It's not only me. I'm
Yeah.
not so weird. I'm well. That I was feeling like an outcast, almost like, oh my God, I have a very, I don't know, traumatic life, so many problems. My head was really very stressed, no confidence. I wasn't very happy with my body image and how I looked. I was feeling like really miserable, and I thought that it was only me.
Right.
Everybody, all other women around me were living the perfect lives and had no issues, and no mental health, and they were super strong and super motivated. They knew what they wanted to do in life, and I was feeling like a total failure and a total mess. And then I realized, oh,
Yeah, ain't
actually,
just you. No,
it's totally me.
no. A lot other women struggle with some stuff too, man. That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
true, true.
Thanks, Maria. I think we gonna call it uh here. This, by the way, this wasn't supposed to be a podcast.
I know, I know. We
But
probably went a little bit longer than what I expected, but I really enjoyed the chat,
yeah.
and I really liked the fact that it wasn't, really so much about nutrition and nutrigenomics and bone health and menopause, but it was more about, mental health,
I love that.
women
Yeah.
empowerment.
Yes.
Ultimately, that's what my vision is, and that's how I want to help women. It's a lot more than nutrition and body wellness. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'll still publish it though. We'll still put it out. Because I think it was a really good conversation. So wait, let me start recording. We're recording, right? Yes.